Podcast where we show off all the neat things that are happening at Legacy. And we have an especially interesting show off today. We had students and teachers who went to Washington, D.C. on a trip right after STAR, I believe, right, in May. Mm-hmm. And they have been so enthusiastic about their experience there that it was a natural thing to have them on the podcast. Before we start, let's go around the room and see who we have. Start here on my right.
My name is Benjamin Pryor. I'm a humanities teacher for 11th and 12th grade.
And you're the senior sponsor, one of the senior sponsors. Thank you.
My name is Sadie Miguel. I'm the Spanish teacher for 7th and 8th grade middle school.
My name is Anthony Moore, student at Legacy Preparatory Charter Academy in Plano.
And what grade are you going
I'm
into?
going to 9th grade.
Okay.
My name is Ida Dominguez. I'm the special programs coordinator for the school district, and I also coordinate educational tours for the students.
Thank you. So let's start with you, Ms. Dominguez, because you brought this opportunity to us. Can you talk a little bit about the company, the organization that organizes these opportunities for kids?
Sure. We use the Close-Up Foundation. The Close-Up Foundation has been operating since 1971, taking students from all around the nation to visit the capital, Washington, D.C. They have the goal and methodology to prepare the youth for active citizenship, and they guide them the learning by doing. That's one of their main goals. They have two programs, the high school program and the middle school program, so they operate a little bit different there. For example, the high school program builds students' sense of political efficacy, and it helps students develop the knowledge and the practical understanding needed for our democracy. They talk about basic concepts and processes, and they get to practice them and to live them as well. The middle school program, it builds the student's sense of connection to the prospects and challenges of the democratic citizenship, and they will gain greater understanding of the rights and responsibilities of citizens in a democracy. So they're slightly different because they are tailored towards what they are covering in their social studies classes and humanities classes, depending on the grade level.
All right. Well, that's a nice foundational piece there. So let's see how that came alive for our teachers and our students. And I keep saying teachers because you guys were not passively just guiding kids. It's been as hard to get you guys to slow down talking about it as it is the students. So let's start with you, Ms. San Miguel. You were asked to take the middle school group, which we appreciate you doing. It was a last minute thing, and you were very brave. And so talk a little bit about that experience.
I need to say that it was an amazing experience. Close-Up is a very organized group of people and that work with us. They work with teachers on one side and they work with students on the other side. Even though we communicate and we see each other every day. But it was very, as you said, it was a last minute situation for me. So I was a little bit scared of what I'm gonna see over there. But what I saw, it was amazing. You know, I didn't even deal with the students too much. They have the control of everything. For every trip, for every bus, for everything, they gave directions to them. And they just let us know what they're gonna do. They have a schedule for teachers, different, completely different at the schedule for students. You can choose to enjoy them, or you can choose to stay on your teacher side. And it was amazing. I did both. I integrate myself on first day I was by myself on the teacher group, and then the second day I was in the morning with my group, and then I jumped on their schedule. And it was very interesting the way they have connect everything. They give you access to the train, to everything, so they give you map, They give you everything, so you can have access to every kind of situation or information. Every person that you contact from close up, they always have an answer for you, and they don't have it on their hands. They will call you back and they give you an answer. But academic or education wise, it was amazing.
Talk a little bit about the places that you visited, just briefly. Where are all the places that you went, that they took you?
Well, my favorite one, it was the Unknown Soldier. It was something that I have been seeing on movies, and it's not the same when you stand up there. It was
So let's play that video of the unknown soldier, and then you can comment on it.
okay, perfect.
All right. So, since there's no sound here for the video, go ahead and tell us what we're seeing.
Yes, it was a restrict area that you cannot talk. It was a silent because, of course, there is a tomb there from the unknown soldier, so we need to respect that. Even though they have a ceremony that they exchange every 30 minutes, the soldier. And it was amazing to see the quantity of people in the area, and nobody was talking, even students. They were, I can tell you, over 500 kids there. Nobody was talking.
One of the things that a lot of people don't know about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is that these soldiers that walk this walk do it every single day, 24 hours a day.
Doesn't matter the weather.
Sleet, rain, thunderstorm. No, doesn't matter.
That day that we were there, it was 100
Degrees?
the degrees. It was very hot. No, we didn't feel the air coming through us. It was a lot of people, and even us that, at least me, were with a polo shirt of a teacher. They were in uniform, so for them, it was very. My grandparents are veterans, and for me, I feel proud. I just thankful and proud. That's the only thing I can say.
Well, and the awesome thing about actually getting to be there is it's so silent that you can hear his heels click.
On the video, yes.
You know, there's hundreds of people gathered around to watch this, and you could hear a pin drop. And just admiring the fact that so many people have that kind of respect, you know, that I think above all just sends shivers down your spine, that there are people out there that still have that respect for the traditions and the history of our country.
It's good to know.
And other things that it was live when we went there, it was a funeral going on. So they were using, when my grandparent died, they used a rifle. They used real canyons there. And you can hear for a lot. We were scared at the beginning, but then they explained to us what happened, and they used canyon every time someone has a ceremony there. So it was very amazing to see those real canyons working on by soldiers. It was, for me, it was very amazing.
What other places did you visit?
Another place that I liked the most, it was in Pennsylvania. We tripped the last day. We went, not the last day, the day before. We went to Pennsylvania to the Battle of Gettysburg, the battlefield of Gettysburg. Gettysburg, it was amazing trip. They have a museum with the real artist. They did a 360 artist from the the battlefield, and it was the whole city. We went, I don't know how many yards. We went on a bus, and they continue having different monuments, museums, canyons, as he said, and it was very real. And we asked, even though they haven't constructed nothing on those mountains, nothing. It's everything for a park from the battlefields. So everything that you see there, it was there at the moment of the battlefield.
So you also then went to the White House?
We went to the White House, yes, at 9.
And then where else?
We went to the Lincoln Memorial.
Okay.
We went to the Jefferson Memorial. We went to, let me see, we have a lot of, we visited the Supreme Court. We visited the House of Representatives, the Capitol.
Very
We
full.
went to the,
full-
it was a busy schedule.
Yeah.
We didn't have time for nothing.
Well, you had time for a lot, but nothing,
Well, yes.
nothing
for
else
that,
outside
yes.
of that. So, Anthony, from a student standpoint. What did you think going in? What did you think it'd be like? Had you been to Washington before now?
Yes, I have been to Washington. Me and my family have seen a lot of monuments. But my favorite monuments, or battlefield, I guess, was Gettysburg, because they had this rock-like structure called Devil's Den. And the reason why they called it Devil's Den is because Indians found the rocks, and black snakes ate other snakes. So they called the snakes kind of like devils,
Okay.
because they ate other snakes. So that was my.
Well, we have some video of you guys at the Gettysburg Field with a cannon.
Oh.
So let's play that, and then you can tell us what we are seeing. Okay.
Okay.
So that's a real cannon.
That's a real cannon, yes.
What are they having the kids do?
They're having the kids put, like, I'm guessing. So the one that's standing right there on the side that put like something into the cannon is kind of like,
Cannonball.
yeah,
So they're pretending to put the cannonball in and then push
yes, pretending to, and then she is actually pulling things so it lights the fuse and it shoots the cannon.
it in. Oh,
It
but
was-
it wasn't real.
No,
No.
it wasn't real. It was a
So-
real canyon from the battlefield.
It was a real cannon, but everyone kind of for a second thought it was gonna
Go
like
off.
go off, but there wasn't anything in it. So he just made a noise, boom, and everybody kind of got scared.
It was very quiet at that moment. But he was trying to demonstrate to them they have 43 seconds to do the whole process of pull the canyon to work.
Put the
Yes.
ball in. Put the
Put
push
the ball,
it all
the cleaning
way,
area, yes.
and then pull the. And
So
then
they were
clean it.
trying to prove them. He was trying to prove them that in 43 minutes they need to
Seconds.
do everything.
43
And
At
seconds.
that 43
Stick.
seconds. I'm sorry.
And standing back, there's two people that are making the ammo. So ammo's not prepared already. You have to make the ammo, and then someone with the bag has to go get it from, I think, 20 feet
Wow.
and bring it back and load everything, clean the inside of the cannon, and then fire it again. And then that's a continual process.
So you can imagine those soldiers had to be trained day in and
Yes.
day out for that.
Trained.
So you talked about the fact that you have been to Washington before. How was going this time different?
My family, we didn't really go see like inside of buildings. We just went to like the monuments.
Like most tourists, yeah.
Yeah.
But this time, you all not only went inside, but I think there was an educational piece, wasn't
Yes, there was an educational piece. There was a museum that we went to. It was actually really educational. There was this kind of like it was in a library. So like museum with a library attached to it, kind of.
Were the books from from 200 years ago?
Yes.
Old.
Yes.
It was a.
And what kind of reflection did Close Up have students do around all that you saw and experienced?
Reflection.
When you went,
Remember
went
when
back to the
on the
hotel?
group?
When we went back to the hotel, so we started on the bus. First, we had to talk about it on the bus. We had workshops. So when we got back to the hotel, we had a little workshop, and then it was back to our rooms.
Okay. So what time did you end up going to bed?
2:00 in the
Wow. They had him up that late?
morning. There was no curfew. There was a curfew to get back into your room, but there was no curfew inside the room.
See, but they need to be on the checking room. It was a 10 every single day.
And so, either one of you can talk to this. What kind of safety and security was there to make sure that those kids didn't go revisit monuments in the middle of the night?
For me, it was very secure at the beginning. But the first night, I went to their room. It was around 8 something because that day we went to sleep earlier. And they have a person from Close Up in the middle of the hallway with the list of every person that is in the room. So he goes, at the time of the check-in, he goes knock at the door with the list. He goes inside, asks for Pedro, Juan, and he checked that everybody's there. And then he closed the door. After he closed the door, every time someone opened the door, need to go by him because nobody can go out of the room.
It's almost like star testing.
Yes.
It really
he
is.
there 24/7. Even though the next day, I was like, let me wake them up because I know they didn't went to bed earlier. So I was going to wake him up and he was still there. The same guy that I see the night before.
So is that common for...
It is. They actually had the same thing with our students. Sunday night when we got in, they announced the rules. You know, there are 4 main rules of the Close-Up. And one of the rules is no boys allowed in girls' rooms, no girls allowed in boys' rooms. Being in the room means crossing the threshold. So if you step over the threshold at all, you are officially in their room and you can get sent back home on your own dime. And they have the monitors in the hall the entire night, and they do room check at 11 o'clock, go and make sure that the only people in the room are the people that are supposed to be in the room. But if they open the door at all, that room monitor is right there waiting for them.
That's good to know. Of course, they've been
Another-
doing this a while.
Exactly.
Another security for our middle school. I don't know if high school they did it the same. 5th floor, it was for girls. 6th floor, it was for boys. And 7 and 9, it was for teacher and staff.
Okay.
So they were by
Yes, they did
and
the same
then
thing with us.
For each hallway, the monitor, it was, if it's a boy hallway, it was a boy monitor. And it was a girl monitor.
Okay.
So it was, I think it was completely,
Completely safe.
Secure.
Because parents want to know that.
yes.
And I'm glad that now that we have people who have gone and can vouch to that. So, Mr. Pryor, talk a little bit now about the high school program and, you know, where you went and all of that.
The high school program was focused a lot about how our government works. A lot of the workshops that the students would have after the full day of traveling through D.C. Was based on creating legislation, pushing legislation through, how the legislative process works, not just how the representatives and the senators vote on it, but also including lobbyists, because it's one of those things that we don't necessarily get into a lot in school because that's not the official way that things are done, but it's the realistic way that things are done. So they do a role-playing scenarios where they actually have to try and pass a bill, and there are certain lobbyists and senators and representatives, and they have to figure out how to get it through. But it focuses a lot about how the government runs, how our country runs, and less on specifically the history of it.
Okay.
And
Where-
yet, at the same time, they still get to visit a lot of the historical areas while still learning how it actually works.
So where did you and the kids go?
Oh, my goodness. It's actually a shorter list where we didn't go. We went to the Library of Congress, the Supreme Court, the 3 representative buildings, the 3 Senate buildings, the Capitol building, the White House, the World War II Memorial, Lincoln Memorial, Thomas Jefferson Memorial, Korean War Memorial, which they actually found very touching because of the pictures that are imprinted on the wall. The students, for a war that lasted a very short time, they actually were very touched by that one, and it was neat to see that.
So you brought something back from one of your trips.
I actually did. It's actually one of my prized possessions, and I'm going to have it framed and hanging in my classroom. It's my reading card from the Library of Congress. So
What privilege does that give you?
that gives me the opportunity to go into the large reading room, the main reading room.
Wow.
So when you enter, actually there's a picture of the Library of Congress. So that big dome right in the middle, that's right there. That is the main reading room. This picture was actually taken from a window that you can go into on a balcony and take a picture. But you have to have a card in order to get into it.
Okay.
And in order to get the card, you have to walk to the very back of the museum in the basement. And it was one of those experiences that I'll never forget.
Now, we have a video from Mason Chambers, who went with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll have to excuse the quality. With Skype, he was working today, and he, ironically enough, he's working to get money so he can go again next year.
He was very, very excited about it, and has been a big seller for this program for next year.
All right, well, let's listen to Mason. And unfortunately, you can see me. The Skype is sort of interesting. It's a dual screen. But let's listen to Mason, because he was very enthusiastic.
There it goes.
You went to the high school portion of the close-up trip to Washington, D.C.
Mhm.
And before I hit the record button, you were telling me very enthusiastically that you loved it, but let's sort of go backwards. Tell me, what did you think it was going to be like to go to Washington, D.C. versus how it turned out?
Okay, so I loved it, and I'll keep saying that with every portion of my heart. I love this trip. It was amazing. I would go back 100 times if I had the chance. What I thought it would be was, ironically, I thought it was actually going to be a little bit less exciting and a little bit less outgoing than what it was. I thought we'd kind of be like stuck in a room for half of the day and just talk about Washington as opposed to going out and actually viewing it. But I was completely wrong. On the first day, we were literally able to go walk around Washington. We were able to go walk around, enjoy the sights, view the customs of so many people, so many things, get to go to the malls that are all around there. There was over 3 malls in our little area that we stayed at. And it was just overall a great experience. I loved it. We were able to experience so much history that it blew my mind, and especially I'm a history person. I loved history ever since I was a little child. I loved history, but I think people that don't even like history would love this trip. It's a once in a lifetime trip, in my opinion. I really do think that.
What was your absolute favorite part?
Oh, that's a tough one. That really is. We did so many things, but in all honesty, I'm gonna have to go with the it was on the second day of the week. It was Tuesday. We were able to go to the Lincoln Memorial, the Korean Memorial, and the Vietnam Memorial. I think those 3 places were my favorite place to go to because it was all within like the same hour, the same time. We were able to go there and experience it all together. It was a rough, it was hard to take it because it was so many things were happening. The Vietnam Memorial was a memorial of all the lives that were within Vietnam that were either taken or could never be found. The bodies couldn't. And that was a really emotional thing to breathe in and to take in. Not for the fact that we could sit there and see it, but the fact that these people fought for our lives, it really put things into perspective, and it made me look at everything in a whole new way, because you sit there and you're like, man, life can be so troubling, but you're like, oh my God, these people have it a lot rougher than I ever will, and it makes you really look at things in perspective the Korean memorial was it was so beautiful. I loved it. I really did. They had statues, and they had the statues of like the U.S. Army kind of like rummaging through the bushes, and the bushes are authentic. You know, like they're from Korea, and they looked really pretty. They looked gorgeous, and like it showed them rummaging through the boucherie is what I like to say it, boucherie, and yeah, it showed them rummaging through it. Like it showed like the emotion on their faces and stuff. It was just jaw dropping. I loved it. And then obviously the Lincoln Memorial, that in all of itself was just a beautiful thing. It was just, it's about as tall as a 3-story building, it looked like from my perspective. It was amazing. It really put in a reflection in mind that I'm standing here getting to witness this. It was great. And I'd have to say that'd be my, most favorite part of this whole trip.
I would say that you probably met the goals as far as what Close Up and Legacy wanted for students, and that is to be come back changed in some way.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. I feel like even my peers that went along with me, I feel like some of them didn't have a passion for our history, but I feel like they came back not with just a passion, but a love for it as well. I really do. And I mean that honest to God, it was like great. And it made everybody just kind of wake up and realize this is my country. I will fight for my country. I know how, and I'm going to, whether it be not going to war, but fighting on causes that affect us, and affect our future generations to come, That's just how, like, that's what the feelings it gave off, and it made us kind of stand up for that. And I loved that. That was also another great part on my end, just the fact that we got to see everything, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
So, what advice would you give to kids who hopefully will go next year on this same type of trip?
In all honesty, my advice would be my advice would be to actually kind of study up on our U.S. history. Not, I'm not saying go in and take like, look at like the thickest book in the library, and study it. No. But what I am saying though is that try to look up some of the most key important events that's happened in our history, on a little brief timeline. I really do feel like, in all honesty, that would brief you up to speed on the stuff that we'll be covering there, because they were mentioning stuff all the way back in the 1889-ish area, 1890s, because they brought up the Spanish-American War, and that happened around 1895-ish, so the fact that they brought that up was amazing. But I feel like that's back in U.S. history way back when, back in 8th grade before you go to high school U.S. history. So it's like, I feel like if you would do like a little memory jogger, if you will, I feel like that would really prep all students, whether you're a big fan of history or not. I feel like that'd prep them all the way for them to actually understand the trip.
I think that's good advice.
So, as you can see, there's been a lot of enthusiasm from everyone who went. And so we only have a few minutes, so let's talk about what do kids have to do to be able to go next year. And so, Ida, from your standpoint, from working with Close Up and so forth, what advice do you give to parents who have kids who are interested in going in next May?
We're going to start with the recruiting for the trip right when the school starts. That way they have more time to make payments towards the trip, and give your students the opportunity to experience what you have heard here. It's not the same thing to read it or learning at school by the books than going there in real life and being part of it. As you heard Mason in the video, as you heard Thomas here, Anthony here, because it changes their lives, it changes their perspective, and it helps them understand better what they're learning at school. Slots are a little bit limited, but if we have to go over. I'm sure that it's something that we can do, but we start with a group of 10 students, 10 for high school and 10 for middle school. So everyone incoming 6th through 8th grade and 9th through 12th grade have the opportunity. It's 2 separate programs. So we start with 10 and 10 because we're a small district. But if we have to open it for more students, I can talk to Close Up about that. But I
So-
would need to know it from the beginning.
A couple of strategies for parents would be to think about this as a year-long payment opportunity. And what I mean by that is, for example, birthday money from relatives, Christmas money from relatives, even yourselves to the child, to say, I'm putting this in your Washington, D.C. account so that it's not a big cost at the end of the year. It's something that's planned for strategically. Also, putting kids on a chore schedule to where they have to earn money towards their trip. Anthony just rolled his eyes at me. But you have to earn it. An earned trip is much more satisfying. We have Mason right now who couldn't be here today in person because he's trying to earn money for the trip next year already. So, and let me remind you, this is not the first time we've sent kids. We sent kids to China, and those two, the moms of those kids, they sold tamales for months so that their kids could have the opportunity to go to China. And that was life-changing for them. Those kids had really never been out of this area, and they got to go to China. Unbelievable.
If I may, first step for the close-up trip is to pay the deposit. It's a $400 deposit. Early bird gets a slightly discount that close-up offers for those parents. And then they have the rest of the year up to a month before the trip or 3 weeks before the trip to make payments toward that. They are very flexible. They don't set an amount. You can deposit whatever amount you want as long as by 3 or 4 weeks before they depart, they have the full payment. Even if you just want to pay the deposit and then pay the difference at the end, they can do that as well. Or they can break it into weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, however they want. So they're really flexible with that. Just $400 deposit holds your spot, and then it has to be paid by 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time.
Well, thank you for that. We put the link, the email link for more information on the Facebook post. And Anthony, any interest in going back for the high school trip?
Yes.
Okay. And so you are entering 9th grade, so you've got a year or two maybe to start thinking like that and preparing and like Mason said, maybe boning up a little bit more, with more intensity on American history.
Absolutely. I mean, it was great for the seniors that got to go because I do teach U.S. government, and they actually got to watch how the government works. And I can teach you all day long about how it works, but getting to meet with Senator Ted Cruz's staff and Senator John Cornyn's staff and get to ride the Senator tram from the Senate building to the Capitol building and watch the Senate in session, you learn so much more seeing it happen than you can in any classroom.
And those are good words of advice. Well, we've come to the end of the show. There's no time to ask me questions, but that's okay because your information was much more important. We thank you for being here. And just as a prep for next week, we have our board chair, Mr. Byron Ricks, coming and talking more about raising single kids in the home. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ask Dr. Be Good show. For more information on Legacy Preparatory Charter Schools, visit our website, legacypca.com, or call 469-249-1099. And remember to like us on Facebook, where we stream live weekly Tuesdays at 3 p.m.